All right. So I had my friend Dan, who I got to know at a previous church. He has doing an orchestra for youth. And so he's been doing this for a few years and he needed a website. So Dan got in touch with me, which was really, I was really honored to be able to be his first contact about doing his website. And so when he was expressing his interest in doing a website, I told him something that I tell all my clients and the other people. It's really important to think about when you're thinking about a website that you think is going to help bring you marketing, bring you opportunities for people to hear about your amazing work that you're doing, that something super important about that when you're thinking about your website. The first thing is your website is like a digital property. So it's an extension of your actual workplace that you're doing work. And so it's that valuable. And so it's really important that when you think about it, your location of where you build it, if you will, on the internet matters. And it's kind of like, because it's been hosted just on the net, it's literally like you are in the forest. So when you launch it, you are in the middle of nowhere. And so that's one of the most important things that when people build websites, they may not be ready to understand, and a lot of website builders might not communicate this very well, is that this is often what it is. And so historically in the .com era, there's been a way to achieve people coming to your amazing site. You had to build roads just like you had a physical property, the coolest physical property you could ever build. If it's in the middle of nowhere and you don't have any roads, it's not going to get traffic. And so the traffic to your website matters. And so historically the traffic has been word of mouth, people just letting you know, hey, go to my type in www dot and whatever the website is. Google picked up that, and that was a way for Google to list a whole bunch based on a keyword of other websites that matter. But of course that over time got filled up, especially with Google AdWords, started to condense how many people you can actually see on that homepage, which if you're not on the homepage, you don't really show up in your search results. So it becomes more and more difficult to find your website. And then of course, emailing. And emailing was very powerful early on in the internet. But as over time, we just got so many emails from so many subscriptions from everywhere now. And so there's only a 2% open rate now, 2% click-through rate to your website from emails. So it's still effective. It still works as a marketing source, especially for people who use email predominantly, but it's not as effective. And so the internet has continued to evolve, and now we have the primary way that people will arrive at the destination of your website, which is social media. And so Dan and I discussed that, building out what would widen those roads eventually to those types of things, which is social media strategy. But at the moment, he had an amazing opportunity. He has his church actually doing word of mouth with him and sending people to his website and to his offerings. And he needed a way to capture those opportunities that the church was doing for him. And so I thought, great, let's just start there and let's just build a website just to let him know that today you have to build a lot more avenue streams. And so he was open to that as we went forward. So to begin with, Dan wanted a one-page website design. Thankfully, Dan had already done his scripting. He had a Word doc with a manual to explain what he's expecting and all of his things, basically like a syllabus, which was super, super helpful in creating the website, because the written content is typically what we start with first before we even build any kind of conceptual things. So Dan had that all written out because Dan's amazing. And so he had that ready to go, and I was able to build the concept, the layout, the graphics, and the search engine optimization. And of course, what I do is the human experience optimization, because people are the primary users of the websites, not just the engine that gets you there. And so it's super important that you have that, and not everybody designs with that in mind. So then we talked about doing a video banner that was also an in-person interview. And so I went over and interviewed him with also his students while he was teaching. I used some multicam on that one, some back screen graphics, and some background music, which was really great. And then identity logo design. He didn't have a logo, and so I was able to do that for him as well. So here is what the logo looked like. So I gave him 3 options. Typically when I build a logo, I do 3 different versions. So you get a real different flair for the differences that you can have. What I primarily use this for is when you do scripting, when you do strategy prior to this, in terms of what the content you're going to put on your website, it informs the design, the visual design of what I do, especially if I'm going to create an identity design for your company. And so the more information I can get about you and about what really makes you tick as a company and as a business, then it helps inform the design. So I was able to do these 3 designs. Dan picked the bottom left-hand corner here for his main design, which totally makes sense. Fingerprint idea, Christian, and music, of course, all together. And so then our website looked something like this. So when we actually brought it together, here's the video and the opportunity for the whole site. I'm going to have you just play just a section of the video right
So
here.
my name is Mr. Perrin. I am the orchestra teacher for Imago Youth Symphony Strings. Imago Youth Symphony Orchestra really grew out of the Imago Classical School here at Missio Dei Church. So that orchestra.
So there's a little bit of that. And if we scroll down through the site, Dan had a lot of information that he wanted to communicate to his students. And so typically that makes a larger site, but because of budget constraints, I came up with a way to help him with that. This is accordion, called an accordion design. And so it can just expand and explore more information that would be there. We might have expanded these out into individual sections. A section is basically what you're seeing right here. This is one section. That top banner is one section. And so that's how I actually charge for the rates, are based on the section. So currently Dan's budget was for 3 sections. And so then I built these out. We've got buttons in here that link to his forms for registration and for payment. And so Dan's subscription to Wix, this is Wix Studios, what I build in. That's the primary one I build in. So it is a great opportunity. It's really the best builder that I like to use, unless you're actually building from scratch in code. And so this is fantastic. I highly recommend using Wix. So here's his class times and schedules, the location where he's at, and then, of course, book and interview buttons here at the end, and payment buttons, again, which is e-commerce version for Wix Studio. Highly recommend you take a look at Dan's stuff, especially if you're in the Kenosha, Racine, and like Northern Illinois area, and you're looking to invest your student to continue to grow in understanding their musical independence and to glorify God. He is an amazing teacher. Highly recommend that. You go to iysokenosha.com, search in Google, or follow him on social. That can drive you over to his site. So he's going to continue to post more about that. So if you are interested in a website design, good news for you. I actually do website design. Imagine that. So this is something that I do. This is my website. You can go to storyscapedesign.com. You can get a custom quote, fill out my form. You can also nominate, by the way, websites that look really bad. You're like, oh my gosh, I've been on this website and someone needs to redo this. I would really appreciate the recommendation from you if you do. So you just click this and then you can fill out my little form here that helps other businesses who might need a refresh so that they can present a professional end goal for their clients that they serve. So make sure you do that. If you do, you can go through my site and see more examples of websites I've built as well. Of course, the site itself is an example of my work. You can get a custom quote from me, more about my background as well. So definitely go to my website if you are interested in me doing website design for you, whether it's also identity design, visual design, strategy for social media, and or if you are interested in doing ministry in a way that propels the gospel forward. I would love to work with churches as well as personal people who want to do personal ministry. That's something that I'm called to do as well. I want to help you as well. So get in contact with me, share this with people that you know, please. And I would love to have a conversation with you or your friends. All right. Thanks so much for joining me.